I never thought I'd find myself in a situation like this. Honestly, I thought I knew everything about my wife, Lisa. We had been together for 5 years, engaged for almost a year, and I was finally about to marry her. I mean, I really believed she was the one. She was smart, ambitious, beautiful. Everyone said we made a great couple. But looking back, there were subtle signs I ignored or brushed off. She'd get a little defensive when I asked her where she was sometimes, or she'd be a little more distant than usual. Nothing concrete, just small things that I chalked up to her being busy or stressed. I trusted her, maybe too much. Then, about 2 weeks before the wedding, something changed. She started acting weird, more irritable, short-tempered, and secretive. She'd hide her phone constantly, lock it even when she was in the bathroom or away from me. Every time I'd ask her what she was doing, she'd brush it off with a bitchy smile or a dismissive laugh, saying I was just paranoid or that I was reading into things. I didn't push her too much at first. I figured the wedding stress was getting to her, or maybe she just needed some space. But I couldn't shake this nagging feeling that something was really off. One night I was sitting on the couch just scrolling through my phone, trying to relax after a long day. I noticed her phone sitting on the coffee table, unlocked and facing me. Now I've seen her do this before, leave her phone around, but I always assumed she was just careless. But this time, I saw a message pop up on the screen. It was from some guy named Jake. The message was short but clear. "Can't wait to see you tonight, missed you all day." My heart sank. I froze for a second, trying to process what I was looking at. This was the night before our wedding. I felt my stomach turn, but I tried to tell myself it wasn't a big deal. Maybe it was just innocent, a mistake she'd already apologized for, or maybe it was some kind of joke. I mean, who knows? But then I saw her name pop up again in her recent texts. I started scrolling back through her message history, and that's when I saw it. The messages went beyond just friendly chatter. There were texts about making sure everything was perfect, being careful, and not getting caught. Her words, not mine. I felt sick. My mind was racing, a million questions flooding my head. How could she do this? How long had it been going on? And what the hell was I supposed to do now? I didn't confront her then. I just sat there, staring at her phone, feeling a mixture of shock, anger, and heartbreak. I couldn't believe I was sitting here, about to marry someone who had slept with my best friend, Jason. That's right, my own best friend. I never even suspected Jason of anything, but now I was certain. The evidence was right there in her phone, in her own words. I felt betrayed in every possible way. How could Lisa lie so easily? She'd always been a bit of a bitch, really manipulative and good at twisting the truth, but this was next level. She told me it was a mistake, that she didn't mean for it to happen, that she loved me. But her texts said otherwise. They said she'd been sneaking around behind my back for weeks. I didn't sleep that night. I kept thinking about everything, her lies, her betrayal, how I had been blind to all the signs. I kept asking myself if I could even forgive her, or if I should just cut my losses now before walking down the aisle. But deep down, I knew this wasn't something I could just brush off. Not anymore. The trust was shattered, and I felt like I was standing on the edge of a cliff, unsure whether to jump or run. That's when I started planning what I would do next. I needed to understand the full extent of her lies, confront her face to face, and decide whether I had it in me to forgive her or if this was the end of everything. I never thought I'd be here, but somehow I knew my life was about to change forever. Next morning, I woke up feeling like I'd been hit by a truck. My head was pounding and every thought felt heavy and cluttered. I knew I had to talk to her. No more hiding, no more pretending I didn't know. I waited until she came out of the shower, her hair wet and her face already showing. That typical bitchy smirk she always had when she thought she was in control. I remember feeling a strange calm settle over me, like I was about to do something I'd regret or maybe something I'd be proud of. Either way, I couldn't keep this secret anymore. I looked her right in the eyes and said, "Lisa, I saw your texts. I know about Jake." Her face instantly changed. That smug expression faded into something else, disbelief, maybe a flicker of panic, but mostly annoyance. She scoffed and rolled her eyes like I was overreacting. "Oh, what now? You're jumping to conclusions. You don't have any proof. You're just being paranoid." Her voice was sharp, dismissive, and that's when I lost it. No, Lisa, I saw the messages. You've been lying about everything, about the wedding, about us, about what you really want. I could feel my voice trembling, but I kept going. You cheated on me with Jason the night before our wedding. How many times, huh? How long has this been going on? I want the truth. She crossed her arms, rolling her eyes again and giving me that defiant, mouthy look she always used. It was a mistake. Just one night, okay? It meant nothing. I was stressed and it just happened. I was drunk and he was there. I cut her off. One night, that's the best excuse you got. You think I'm an idiot. Do you even hear yourself? You've been hiding this from me for weeks, maybe longer. And Jason, my best friend, you slept with him. That's just great. I could feel the anger boiling up inside me, an uncontrollable rage that I hadn't felt in years. I wanted to scream, but I kept my voice steady, cold, almost numb. Her eyes flashed with fury. You don't get to judge me, Kevin. You're not perfect either. Maybe I needed something more than your stupid, boring life. Maybe Jason was the only one who actually cared. And if you think I'm just going to sit here and take this, then you're dead wrong. She pushed past me, storming into the bedroom, slamming the door behind her like I was some kind of monster. That's when I realized the fight was only starting. This wasn't just about the texts anymore. It was about the person I thought I knew and the betrayal I was suddenly drowning in. I couldn't believe her. I felt like I'd been punched in the gut, but I also felt a strange sense of clarity. I knew I had to do something, but I didn't know what yet. Part of me wanted to explode, to make her confess everything, to call her out in front of everyone. But I also knew that I needed to think carefully. This was no small mistake. It was an outright betrayal, and I had to decide what I was willing to accept and what I was. I started pulling out my phone, trying to find ways to dig deeper. I knew I needed more proof, more evidence of what she'd been hiding. I remembered she kept her phone locked, but I had a suspicion she didn't always remember to lock it when she was careless. I decided to check her messages again, see if I could uncover more. My heart was pounding as I unlocked her phone. I found a few more texts from Jason, talking about how perfect they were together, and waiting for the right moment to tell me. And that's when I saw a picture, her, topless in his bed with a caption that said, "Finally." I stared at it for a long second, feeling a mixture of rage and heartbreak. This was real. It wasn't a mistake or some drunken fling. It was planned, calculated, and done with someone I trusted the most. I didn't sleep that night, just sat there, staring at the ceiling, trying to process everything. I felt betrayed, humiliated, and so damn angry that I almost couldn't breathe. But underneath it all, there was a flicker of something else, determination. I knew I had to do something drastic, something that would make her regret what she'd done, or at least make her realize I wasn't just going to roll over and accept being used. The day dragged on. I kept pretending everything was normal, but inside I was planning my next move. I knew I couldn't just confront her again. She was too manipulative, too good at lying. I had to get her to admit it on her own, maybe even catch her in a lie again. And then I'd decide what to do about us. I couldn't imagine staying married to someone who played me like that. The trust was shattered, and I knew I'd carry this betrayal with me forever. But I also knew I had to act, to come up with a plan to make her pay and to reclaim whatever dignity I had left. After spending the entire day stewing over everything, I knew I couldn't keep pretending I was okay. The more I thought about her lying, cheating, sleeping with Jason, my best friend, I realized I'd been living in some kind of nightmare. I kept replaying her smug face when she denied everything this morning, her dismissive attitude, and the way she tried to brush it off like it was nothing. That was her usual style: deny, lie, manipulate. I'd seen her do it before, and now I saw it even clearer. I had to get her to admit the truth, but I knew she'd never do that willingly. Not without a push. I decided to set a trap. I knew she'd be going out that evening with her friends, so I planned to follow her. I wanted her to slip up, say something she didn't mean, or reveal more than she intended. I was prepared to wait outside for hours if I had to. I parked my car a few blocks away, watched her walk out the door in her usual bitchy attitude, and followed her discreetly from a distance. She headed to some bar downtown, typical Lisa, always trying to look like she was having a good time, hiding her guilt behind a fake smile. I sat across the street, lurking in my car, watching as she texted and laughed with her friends, totally unaware I was nearby. That night, I saw her meet up with Jason. Of course, they were together, laughing, leaning into each other like they didn't have a care in the world. I watched her kiss him on the cheek like they were just friends, but I knew better. I had seen enough. I stayed in my car, feeling every ounce of anger boil inside me. I wanted to run up there, scream at them both, throw something. But instead, I decided to wait until she left. I wanted her to think she was safe, that she'd get away with it. Then I was going to confront her with everything I knew, face her directly, and see what she'd say. The next morning I couldn't focus. I had to do it, had to confront her face to face and get her to admit everything. I couldn't live like this anymore, carrying around this secret pain. So I told her I had something to say. She was in the kitchen pouring herself coffee, and I just stood there staring at her, feeling the weight of everything I'd uncovered. I looked her straight in the eye and said, "Lisa, I saw you last night. I saw you with Jason. You kissed him, and I know you slept with him the night before our wedding. I saw the texts. Don't even try to deny it." She froze for a moment, her eyes narrowing, then she looked at me with that same bitchy, dismissive glare she always used. "Oh, really? You're stalking me now?" she snapped, trying to act like I was crazy. "You're paranoid, Kevin. You're just jealous because I didn't want to wait anymore. Jason's just a friend. You're overreacting." Her voice was dripping with contempt, like I was some kind of loser for catching her. I felt my blood boil, but I kept my voice steady. "No, Lisa. You're the one overreacting. I found everything, and I know you lied about everything." That's when she finally cracked, her face twisting into a sneer. "You don't know what you're talking about. You're just paranoid. Maybe if you weren't so boring, I wouldn't have needed Jason to feel alive." That was the moment I realized she was a master manipulator. She was good at twisting things around, turning the truth into a lie and making me doubt myself. I almost hesitated, questioning whether I was overreacting, but deep down I knew I was. I'd seen enough. Her words felt like venom, and her attitude made it clear she had no remorse. She thought she was untouchable above all of it. That's when I decided I couldn't stay with her anymore, not after this level of betrayal. I told her I was leaving, that I couldn't be with someone who lied, cheated, and humiliated me like this. She just laughed, a cold, bitter laugh, and said I was just jealous, a fool who couldn't handle his wife having a life of her own. That day marked the end of my patience. I knew I had to get out, cut all ties, and rebuild from the ground up. I felt devastated, betrayed, and furious all at once. But I also felt a strange sense of clarity. I couldn't let her get away with this, her lies, her manipulation, her cheating. I had to make her pay somehow. I didn't have a plan yet, but I knew I'd figure it out. I'd been played, used, and lied to by someone I thought loved me. And now I was done being the fool. The fallout from that confrontation was worse than I imagined. The day I told Lisa I was leaving, she got even bitchier, throwing accusations and insults my way. She said I was overreacting, that I was insecure, that I was ruining everything simply because I was too naive to handle her freedom. She called me jealous, possessive, and somehow managed to make it seem like I was the one at fault for catching her cheating. That's classic Lisa: twist the truth, make herself the victim, and paint me as the villain. I could see right through her bullshit, but it still stung. I packed my things that day, feeling like I was dragging my broken trust behind me. I left her standing there, sneering and cursing, and I didn't bother to look back. I knew I had to leave before I did something I'd regret. I needed space, time to breathe, to think clearly. But even as I drove away, I kept replaying everything: the texts, her lies, Jason's face in the bar, the way she tried to manipulate the truth. I felt empty and furious at the same time. How could I have been so blind? How did I not see the signs? I thought I knew her, but I'd been living with a master manipulator all along. Over the next few days, I threw myself into figuring out how to handle this mess. I changed my passwords, blocked her on social media, and started digging into everything I could find. I wanted concrete proof, more than just her words and a few texts. I wanted her to see that I wasn't going to be played anymore. I was still hurting, still pissed off, but I knew I had to be smart if I was going to get some kind of justice or closure. So I hired a private investigator. Yeah, I know it sounds extreme, but I needed to know how deep this went. I wanted to catch her in some kind of lie, or maybe even get proof of Jason's involvement beyond those texts. While I waited for the pie to do his thing, I started looking for ways to turn the tables on her. I wanted her to realize I was serious about exposing her, about making her regret everything she'd done. I knew she was good at lying and manipulating, but I also knew she hated being caught off guard. I decided to send her a message, pretending I was still trying to patch things up, just to see how she'd respond. I kept it vague, something like, "I know everything, Lisa. I'm done playing your games. If you want to talk, you know where to find me." I didn't expect her to reply, but I wanted her to feel the pressure. A few days later, the pie came back with some shocking news. He had caught her meeting Jason again, this time at a hotel downtown. They were in the same room for hours, him with his arm around her, kissing her neck and her laughing like she didn't have a care in the world. I saw the photos, her in his arms, clearly caught in the act. That was the confirmation I needed. She hadn't just slipped up once, she was actively sneaking around, lying to my face and making a fool out of me. I was furious, but at the same time I felt a strange sense of relief. Now I knew the truth for sure. That night I sat in my apartment, staring at the photos on my phone, feeling everything inside me twist. The betrayal was beyond anything I'd imagined, and yet part of me felt a strange clarity. I wasn't going to let her win. I was done playing nice. I decided I'd take control of the situation. I'd send her the photos, tell her I knew everything, and give her one last chance to come clean. Or else, I'd make sure everyone knew what kind of person she really was. I didn't want revenge just for the sake of it, but I wanted her to understand that her lies and manipulations had consequences. The next morning, I drafted a message. No more holding back. I told her I had proof of everything, that I was done being her fool, and that I was going public if she didn't come clean now. I wanted her to see I wasn't messing around. I sent the message attached the photos and waited. The silence that followed was deafening. I knew she'd try to deny, spin, or guilt-trip me into silence, but I was prepared. I had nothing left to lose, and I was finally ready to take control of my life again. The response from Lisa didn't come immediately, but I could feel the tension building. I knew she was probably scrambling, trying to figure out how to spin this in her favor. I wasn't naive. I knew she'd try to manipulate her way out of it, deny everything, blame me for snooping, or say I was just jealous or insecure. That was her style. But I also knew I had the photos, the undeniable proof that she'd been lying to my face all along. Meanwhile, I started preparing myself mentally for what was coming. I had decided that if she didn't come clean or if she tried to deny everything again, I was going to go public. I wanted everyone to know who she really was, the cheater, the manipulator, the liar. I'd spent so many years building my life, trusting her, thinking we had something real. And now, it all felt like a sick joke. But I was going to let her make me the fool anymore. I had to stand tall, be honest with myself, and take control. A few hours later, my phone buzzed with a reply. It was Lisa. Her message was classic, full of deflective bullshit, insults, and an attempt to turn everything around on me. She accused me of stalking her, of invading her privacy, and called me crazy for making a big deal out of nothing. But beneath all that, I could see the panic. She knew she was caught, and her words betrayed her desperation. She said she loved me, that it was a mistake, that she didn't mean for any of this to happen. But her words felt hollow and scripted. I knew she was just trying to save herself, to spin some story that would make me doubt what I saw. I responded calmly. I told her I knew the truth, that I had the photos to prove everything, and that her lies wouldn't change what she did. I told her I was done with her games, and I was going to protect myself. I warned her that if she kept lying, I'd go public, and everyone would see her for what she truly was. I wanted her to realize that her manipulations wouldn't work anymore, that I was stronger than her tricks. That night I couldn't sleep. I kept thinking about everything, the betrayal, the lies, the way she sneered at me when I confronted her. I felt hollow, betrayed, and honestly kind of numb. For years, I'd believed we had something real. Now I saw it was just a facade she'd been hiding behind. But even in that darkness, I found a strange resolve. I wasn't going to let her destroy me. I was going to take back my life one step at a time. I had the proof I needed, and I was ready to face whatever came next, whether that meant exposing her publicly or just walking away and healing on my own. The next day, I made my move. I went to work, but I also started planning how to handle everything with the least collateral damage. I knew she'd try to come back, to manipulate me again, or maybe even try to guilt-trip me into staying. But I wasn't going to fall for it. I had reached a breaking point, and I knew my next step would be decisive. I was finally done being a victim, and I was ready to stand my ground. Whatever she did next, I promised myself I wouldn't let her take control of my life anymore. I deserved better, and I was determined to reclaim my dignity. In the days that followed, things spiraled fast. I didn't hold back anymore. I sent the photos and the full story to a few mutual friends, just to make sure she wouldn't spin any more lies to cover her ass. I wanted everyone to see her for what she truly was, a manipulative, unfaithful bitch who thought she could get away with anything. It was the hardest thing I ever did, but also the most freeing. I couldn't keep pretending I was okay with being betrayed like that, especially not by someone I'd trusted with my whole life. Lisa's reaction was predictable. She immediately played the victim, claiming I was stalking her, that I was crazy, and that I was trying to ruin her reputation. She accused me of making everything up, of turning her into a monster because I couldn't handle losing her. But none of that mattered anymore. I had the proof, and that was all that counted. I didn't respond to her manipulations. I knew what I had seen, and I knew what I wanted nothing to do with her anymore. I moved out of the apartment that same week. I needed a fresh start away from her lies and her games. I found a small place nearby, something I could afford that didn't remind me of everything we'd built together. It was tough, really tough. The breakup hit harder than I expected, and I carried a lot of guilt and regret for a while. But eventually, I realized that I was better off without her. I learned something about myself in this mess. I'm stronger than I thought. I don't tolerate betrayal, manipulation, or lies. I refuse to stay in a toxic relationship where I'm just a fool. Looking back, I see how blind I was. I ignored the signs, I made excuses, and I let her control the narrative for too long. But now I see clearly. The betrayal cut deep, but it also set me free. I learned that some people are just masters at deception, and you can't fix that kind of damage with words or promises. You have to cut ties and walk away, even if it hurts like hell. I've come to understand that trust is fragile, and once it's broken, it's almost impossible to repair, at least not with someone like her. So here's what I want to say to anyone reading this: trust your gut. Don't ignore the signs because you're afraid of losing someone. The truth will eventually come out, and it's better to face it early than to stay in a lie. And if someone cheats on you, manipulates you, or lies to your face, don't waste your energy trying to fix it. Cut your losses, walk away, and rebuild better and stronger than before. Because at the end of the day, the only person who truly deserves your respect and honesty is yourself.